Alright, so disclaimer here. Sorry about the Dutch angle, but I can't seem to level out my phone right now, and I can't find my camera and my normal tripod to set up to do it, to film that way. So you're stuck with this tiny Manfrotto tripod with my iPhone. Also, sorry about the ceiling fan that you're probably going to hear in this video, but if I turn it off, I'm going to roast within like 10 minutes because my room faces the sun for most of the afternoon. And it's like, oof, it's really hot. Really hot when I like on days off like this and I'm like, I'm gonna have a midday nap, and I wake up and my head is just sweaty because the sun's hitting it directly. It's like, ugh, gross. So hey, we don't need to be taking midday naps. That's for lazy people. We need to talk about a book. So I said that I wanted to review some Predator books before we did the Paper Movies The Predator review. And I was like, let's look up some older stuff. Let's do that. But the thing is, with the older stuff, a lot more people have talked about it compared to the newer stuff. So in the grand scheme, if Star Wars is A tier with its expanded universe, and Willow is the bottom of the barrel shit, Predator, and by the way, no one talks about the Willow books. That's why they're the bottom tier of things, next to probably Quantum Leap books and Stargate books, and I'm trying to think of something else. I think they're Babylon 5 books. Like, these are all things no one talks about. Predator's ranked a little higher in the novel department, not the comics. Predator in the Dark Horse comics is like way up there. They've been doing Predator comics longer than they've done Star Wars comics. Next to Alien, Predator was one of their big franchises before they got the rights to do Dark Empire. So the Predator comics are more known than the Predator novels. That being said, there are like next to no Predator novels compared to Aliens and Alien novels. Those are like, the Alien and Aliens books are like a dime a dozen. I mean, like at least 2 come out a year. But with Predator, we're looking at probably, if we're including movie novelizations and not including like Alien versus Predator stuff, shit, like 7, 8 books, maybe 9. So you initially had 3, there's an original Predator trilogy, for lack of a better term, which is Concrete Jungle, Big Game, and Cold War. Not necessarily in that order. I think Cold War came out before Big Game. I just flipped off the camera. It's okay. Then the rights went away from I don't even know who published those early Aliens and Predator novels. Then Dark Horse had like a novel company, and they did some Alien, and they did like, I think, a Predator book. And then they lost the rights, and now it's owned by Titan Books. And Titan Books owns so many movie properties now. It is just insane. I started noticing this when they started releasing all the Aliens books and the Planet of the Apes books and Independence Day books, and now Predator. They've released pretty much most of the stuff is easy to get now, thanks to them. But they started writing some original Predator stuff. Tim Levin wrote the Rage War trilogy, which has a Predator book in it. I've already reviewed that on the channel. And then James A. Moore wrote the Predator Hunters and Hunted, which we'll get to next time, which is a prequel to the new Predator, the last Predator movie. Then they wrote this thing, and this is Stalking Shadows by James A. Moore and Mark Morris. Both these authors have written Predator novels before, and recently, James A. Moore writing Hunters and Hunted, and Mark Morris helping Christopher Golden in writing the Predator movie novelization. So what is Stalking Shadows? It was marketed as a prequel novel to lead into the online game, the Predator Hunting Grounds, I think is what it's called. An online-only game in the spirit of the Friday the 13th video game that came out a few years ago. which, by the way, no one played this Predator game that I've noticed. I think it's a big bomb for being a PlayStation exclusive multiplayer game. Yeah, why don't you try releasing that on PC? You would have done a lot better. But this isn't about my rant on that idiotic choice. We're talking about one of the best books I've read this year. Stalking Shadows opens with after Predator 2. With the aftermath of what happened to Los Angeles in 1997, not only are we seeing Sean Keyes, Peter Keyes' son, figuring out what happened to his father, we also have Dutch from the original movie running around, getting Predator technology and that sort of thing. He runs into our protagonist, Devlin, and the book is basically about Dutch and Devlin's encounters with one another throughout the next decade or so. Next 2 decades, I think. Technically. From 97 till like 2023. And it introduces their friendship. And overall, it's Devlin's military career coming across hunting grounds. Where the predators have shown up, hunted targets and left, or have been killed there. It's interesting. We also throughout are seeing Dutch and his new team that are just made to hunt predators. Not to be mixed up with Project Stargazer from The Predator, but they are also involved in this too. So, what did I like about Stalking Shadows? I liked the characters in this. This may be the first time in a Predator book that I actually cared about the characters. Not since probably the Dark Horse comics. Devlin is a really interesting guy. He befriends his unit. They're like a tight group for many years, and you root for them. It honestly, they remind me a lot of Dutch's team in the original movie Predator, where you like these people, even though you've not really known them. They act like human beings. And you feel bad when things happen to them. Also, Dutch, this is one of the few instances I can think of where Dutch is a prominent character throughout. The Dark Horse stuff kind of dealt with what happened to Dutch. Specifically, his brother is the main character of Concrete Jungle, the first arc, as well as the Concrete Jungle novel. And, I was not a big fan of that, but this is pretty solid. This book ties into the movies really well, which I can't say always happens with these, but it was like James A. Moore and Mark Morris knew their Predator stuff and they started tying things in. With the exception of Predators, but no one really talks about Predators, and you can see why in the last stream we did, because it's terrible. But yeah, I don't know. It was a really solid read. It's definitely the best thing James A. Moore has ever written. Mark Morris, I think, is really good at tying things together and making things flow. We'll talk about that more in the Paper Movies episode when we talk about The Predator. But Stalking Shadows is well worth your time. It's one of the best things to come out this year for books in this crisis we're in right now. So anyway, what do I give Stalking Shadows? I give it a 5 out of 5. This is probably the best Predator book you'll probably ever read. This is the one I would recommend to anyone. Go check it out. Its story structure reminds me of Darth Plagueis by James Luceno, and how it's a book that takes place over many years, but it still flows well. So anyway, where can you buy this? Well, I'll have a link down below to buy this. It's an Amazon affiliate link. You click on that, I get a little money back for the channel. So anyway, have a nice day. And join me next time as we review The Predator, Hunters and Hunted by James A. Moore.